Okay, inshallah. So we're starting module 3 today, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. May Allah make this lesson beneficial for everyone. And inshallah, may Allah allow me to deliver this lesson to the best of my ability. Because the PDF will be zoomed all the way in, I won't be able to check the chat option. I'll check it inshallah after every slide. So if you have any questions, do ask after we finish each slide. So inshallah, I'll be able to answer your questions after every slide, inshallah. Okay, inshallah. So before we start our third module, inshallah, we're going to go over some questions from the previous lesson, inshallah. So inshallah, if I could get brothers to answer some questions, inshallah. So from our previous lesson, some questions, if someone could answer, what is tahannuth? So last lesson we learned about tahannuth. Can anyone answer on the chat option, what is tahannuth? MashaAllah. Solitude to Allah, yes. Seclusion, mashallah. Reflection, a time for reflection, mashallah. Someone wrote solitude to Allah, someone wrote reflection, mashallah. It's a time where you just ponder and reflect over your connection with your creator, and you leave all worldly affairs. Yeah, mashallah. Very good, mashallah. Now, second question from our previous lesson. Where did the Prophet ﷺ go to remove himself from all worldly distractions? Mashallah, someone wrote 𝗃𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀. Mashallah, 𝗃𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀, very good. Mashallah. Mashallah, very good. For those who are joining new today, before we start a lesson, we go over some questions from the previous lesson, just to recap over last lesson and just to jog our memories. The next question, what was the first revelation? Those answering, if you could answer on the publicly so everyone can see your answer rather than messaging me directly. The first, mashallah, the 5 verses of Surah Alaq, mashallah. Surah Alaq, okay. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. 5 verses of Surah Alaq, mashallah. Okay, now why was our Prophet squeezed? Why was he squeezed by Angel Jibril 3 times? Why was the Prophet squeezed by Angel Jibril 3 times? Anyone remember? In the process of revelation, Angel Jibril squeezed him 3 times to add spirituality feeling into Muhammad, yes, to clean him from worldly, yes, mashallah, very good, to add the extra spirituality, yes, mashallah, someone else, so you can get spirituality, yes, very good. Also, so it's not like a dream, you know, sometimes we have, like, we think, are we dreaming, and we pinch ourselves, mashallah. What lessons can we take from the first revelation, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق, read in the name of your Lord? What lessons did we learn about last lesson? What can we take? Okay, the importance of reading is very important, mashallah, very good. It gives you peace and contentment. Quran, yes, definitely. It just shows the importance of knowledge, that the first ever word to be revealed to the Prophet ﷺ was iqra. Yes, read. Okay, it's a command to read, that the more you read, the more you will learn. Very good, mashallah. Okay, coming to the, can anyone write a fact about the Quran? We learned some facts about the Quran. Any fact? I could get everyone to share a fact, inshallah. The heart of the Quran is Surah Yasin, mashallah, very good. Very good. The longest surah is Surah Baqarah, mashallah. It was 23 years period. In the other books, very good. It came 23 years, yes, very good, mashallah. 114 surahs, yes, very good, mashallah. It was revealed over 23 years. The Quran will be an intercession for humans, yes, for mashallah. For those who recite the Quran will be an intercessor for them, mashallah. That's very good. 30 ajza, mashallah. Right, a benefit of reciting the Quran, we kind of mentioned that. Okay, mention an incident that shows how heavy revelation was on our Prophet ﷺ. Okay, how heavy was this revelation on our Prophet ﷺ? When he took revelation, can anyone mention any incidents of revelation? when he finished, the Prophet was stressed, mashallah. When he read the verse, he went to Khadija, his camel's legs nearly broke, very good, mashallah. He used to sweat when he was cold, very good, mashallah, mashallah. The mountain would crush if the Quran was revealed on top of it, mashallah, very good, mashallah, everyone. That's good, very good. His thigh was heavy while the revelation was coming, made the Prophet sweaty, mashallah, even on a cold day, very good. Okay, inshallah. We're going to be moving on to our first slide, inshallah. So everyone who's joined on, because the PDF I'm sharing, it would be full screen. I won't be able to check the chat option. So I'll only check it after every slide. So if you do have any questions, ask at the end of each slide, please, inshallah. Okay, inshallah, we're going to begin our module 3, lesson 1, inshallah. If you want to take notes, inshallah, do take some notes. So inshallah, what we planned is that for the 4 lessons of module 3, we will inshallah talk about some blessed features and some characteristics of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We won't go too much into detail about how he looked and everything, inshallah, but we're just going to talk briefly, inshallah. So number 1, the Prophet's face, talking about his face shone like the moon. Okay, he had a luminous complexion. Okay, so Ka'b bin Malik, who was a Sahabi, he says, every time the Prophet would smile, his face would become radiant, as if he was part of the moon, as if his face was part of the moon. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, the famous Sahabi, he says, the Prophet's face was white in complexion, as if Allah has created him from silver. Okay, so we know from here that his face was really radiant. Okay, there's a story about Sahabi who looked at the moon and he looked at the Prophet back and forth a few times, and he said that that the face of the Prophet is more beautiful than the moon. There's a story about Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the beloved Prophet, that she was once she was looking for her needle in the night. It was dark and she couldn't find it. So she said to the Prophet, I can't find my needle. And he came down, and from the blessed radiance of his face, she found the needle. Okay, number 2, he had a broad forehead. His head wasn't too big, his head wasn't too small, it was slightly big. Okay, number 3, he had fine hair in his eyebrows. So his eyebrows weren't too bushy. He never had less hair on his eyebrows. He just had the perfect amount. His eyebrows did not meet, so he never had a monobrow. There was a vein in between both his eyebrows that would throb when he became angry. So the Sahaba knew that when the Prophet became angry, he would become angry very less. But they would know and they would recognize when he was angry, because there was a vein in between his eyebrows that would bulge out, that would come out when he was angry. Number 5, the pupils of his blessed eyes were black. So the pupils were intensely black, and the white area of his eyes were intensely white. So when he was to look at you, you would definitely know that he is looking at you. His nose was prominent and had a light that covered it. So from far, you would think that his nose is big, but when you come close, you will know that his nose is the normal size. It's just that there's a light that makes it look big from far. His mouth was moderately wide. His mouth was wide. It wasn't too wide, but it was perfectly made. So when he spoke, his speech was clear and eloquent. So the listener won't have any questions. His message will come across very clear. They would say that his message was so clear, even if he gave a long speech, you won't be able to tell if so long. Okay, his speech won't seem too long or too short. It will be perfect. Just like if you get a string that had beads inside, and if you cut the string, and the beads would slowly come out. That's how he would speak. It was really eloquent and clear. He would get his message across. Okay, teeth were even and bright. His teeth were all even and they were bright. Okay, his upper front 2 teeth had a slight gap in between. And lastly, his cheeks were smooth, beautiful, lean, but fully fleshed. Anas bin Malik, a Sahabi who lived with the Prophet for 10 years, says that I have never felt anything more soft, okay, than the palm of the Prophet. It was more soft than silk. Okay, we're not going to go so much into the blessed features of the Prophet. He was just touching up on 10 every single lesson. So by the end of module 3, inshallah, we can cover 40 points of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah, we're going to be moving on to our next slide, inshallah. After the next slide, I will be taking some questions, inshallah. The next slide is the food and drinks of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what types of food he would eat and what type of drinks he would drink. This slide hasn't got everything mentioned, but I tried to include as many as I can, or his most common food that he would eat. Number one, the first being honey. The Prophet ﷺ, okay, loved honey. His beloved wife Aisha radiallahu anha said that the Prophet ﷺ loved honey. He would eat honey a lot, okay. He would mix it with things sometimes and sweeten things up, and he would eat. Next one, black seed. We all know the benefits of black seed. The Prophet ﷺ said that black seed is the cure for every illness, okay. Nowadays we have it in the form of oil, okay, or black seed cream, okay. We should try to follow the sunnah and try to have the actual black seeds. So you can buy these black seeds. Okay, you should try to have some every single day, inshallah. The next one was gourd. Okay, the Prophet he loved this vegetable gourd. Okay, he would mix it with his curry and he would eat it a lot. Okay, and there are many benefits of eating gourd. Okay, it's very good for your brain and senses. Okay, he would love meat as well, even though he wouldn't eat meat all the time. Like Aisha radiallahu anha says that there was a time when 2 months went by and we never saw meat. 2 months went by that the fireplace in the Prophet's house, it wasn't lit. There was no solid food made. Okay, Aisha radiallahu anha says that we lived on dates and water, and occasionally we got some milk. But when he would eat meat, you could tell that he did enjoy it. Okay, the next one was olives. Okay, olives also mentioned in the Quran. Tini was zaytun. We all know that surah was tini was zaytun. Zaytun means olives. Watermelons. He would love watermelons. Okay, he would mix watermelons with dates and he would have it. Okay, watermelon is a fruit that's cold in nature, and dates is something that's hot in nature. Okay, so he would mix them together, so he would make it mild. The next one he would have is cucumber. Cucumber, he would also mix cucumber with dates. Cucumber is cold in nature, and dates is warm, hot, so he would make it mild. So he would have watermelon with dates and cucumber with dates. The next one on the first line, the last on the far right, is vinegar. Now vinegar, the Prophet said, vinegar, he said, what a wonderful curry vinegar is. So he would have vinegar quite a lot. And he also said that the previous prophets, they would have vinegar as well. And he said, and there are many benefits of having vinegar. It's good for digestion and other stuff, okay? The next line, inshallah, we move on to dates. I mentioned dates, okay? We all know that he had lots of dates. He would mix his dates with watermelon and cucumber, figs as well. It comes in the Quran. وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. The word teen, it means figs, okay? Beetroot, raisins, citrus, and pomegranate as well. It comes in the Quran. Rumman, many times it comes in the Quran. Rumman, and milk as well. So he would say milk was like a perfect food item, okay? Because he said it serves both. It serves as a food and as a drink as well as water. And the last one, you probably haven't heard of this one. It's called talbina. It's a mixture of barley, flour, milk, and honey. Okay, I don't know if you've tried it. I've tried it. It's like a sweet drink. You can mix these ingredients up and you can make this sweet drink. This was something he would have. But there are many other things he had, but we've just mentioned these 16 types of food and drinks. Okay, inshallah, we should try to eat these items, inshallah. There are many benefits of having these items, inshallah. Inshallah, before we move on to our next slide, I'm just going to check the chat option if there was anything being said. If not, inshallah, we're going to move on. Fine, chat option is okay. Now, inshallah, we're going to move on to our first official slide, inshallah. The first official slide for today's lesson. Okay, so the first official slide for today's lesson is Wudhu and Salaah. So what happened was, when the Prophet ﷺ was given the revelation, the first revelation of Surah Alaq, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. The first 5 verses he was given, and obviously revelation stopped for a short duration, and shortly after that Jibreel alayhi salam, he came and he taught the Prophet how to perform wudu. He struck his heel on the ground and water started gushing out, and he taught the Prophet how to perform wudu. like a practical wudu. And the Prophet performed wudu. Then Jibril alayhi salam, he led the Prophet in salah, and practically, and the Prophet followed him, and he learned all the positions of salah and everything. Now, after that, the Prophet went home. He taught Khadija radiallahu anha and those at home how to perform wudu and how to perform salah. Now, a question might arise, okay, that how was salah taught at the age of 40 when we know that salah was given to the Prophet 10 years after prophethood? We know that on the night journey, the Prophet was given the 5 salah. He went down from 50 to 5. So which salah is this talking about? If anyone could answer this question, inshallah. So Jibreel alayhi salam, he taught the Prophet how to pray salah, and the Prophet started praying every single day, and the Muslims started praying. But we know that the full 5 salahs were given on the night journey. So how much were they praying until the night journey? Does anyone know? Anyone would like to write on the chat option? Anyone? No? That's fine, inshallah. So at the beginning, there was 2 salahs per day. Okay, at the beginning there were 2 salahs per day. There was one before sunrise, and there was one at sunset. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me before we carry on? Is it clear? Can everyone hear me? You? I will get some responses, please.
Yeah, I can hear you, Ustad.
That's fine, inshallah. We carry on. Okay. So at the beginning there were 2 salahs in the day. So there was one early morning before sunrise, and there was one at sunset. Okay, 2 prayers a day and 2 units. Okay, 2 rak'ahs, 2 units in the morning, 2 units in the day. And obviously later on, 10 years later, when the Prophet went on the night journey, he was given 50 prayers at first, and slowly it was reduced down to 5 prayers as the Prophet went back and forth. Okay, but even then, if we pray 5 prayers, the Prophet said, Allah said that we will still get the reward of praying 50 times. Okay, so the next heading was the early Muslims. Okay, now at the beginning, Islam was preached, okay, secretly. Okay, privately. Islam was preached privately. Okay, it wasn't preached publicly. So for about 3 years, the Muslims, because of the size of because the amount of the Muslims, and because the Muslims were minority in in number. Okay, they were very less in number, so they were just being taught secretly. Okay, and this took place in a house called Daarul Arqam, the house of Arqam radiallahu an. We'll learn about him more in the next slide, inshallah. Now, who were the first Muslims? So the first Muslim, which is agreed, the first Muslim was Khadija radiallahu anha. She was the first Muslimah. She was the first one because the Prophet, after he received revelation, he went home saying Zammiluni, Zammiluni, Dathiruni, Dathiruni, and his wife covered him up. And then she took him to her cousin Waraqa. So some scholars say Waraqa bin Nawfal, the cousin of Khadija radiallahu anha, he was he was the second Muslim, okay, because he did accept that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet, but later on, after a few days or after a short time, he passed away. Okay, so the first few Muslims were those in the household of the Prophet. Okay, so after Khadija radiallahu anha, some say Waraqa, and some say it was Ali radiallahu anhu, because he was living with the Prophet and Zayd bin Haritha, the adopted son, the foster son of the Prophet, who was living with them. Okay, the first Muslim, the first man to accept Islam, or the first person to accept Islam outside the household of the Prophet ﷺ was none other than his best friend Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Okay, he was the first one to accept Islam. He was the first one to accept Islam without any persuasion. Okay, with Khadija radiallahu anha, Zayd and Ali, the Prophet had to explain what Islam is, and everything had to explain, and they asked for signs, or they asked for approval from the guardian and stuff like that. But Abu Bakr, okay, without a word, he accepted Islam immediately. Okay, now After Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu accepted Islam, he didn't stop there. He went and he invited his friends. Okay, he invited his friends like Uthman bin Affan, Zubair bin Awam, Abdurrahman bin Auf, and his friends also accepted Islam. Now, if you see the last point in this slide, it says Ashara Mubashara, the 10 guaranteed Jannah. There were many companions that were guaranteed Jannah. Okay, like Bilal radiallahu anh, Khadija radiallahu anha. But these 10 were guaranteed Jannah in one sitting. So in one sitting, the Prophet said, Abu Bakr is guaranteed Jannah, Uthman is guaranteed Jannah, Umar is guaranteed Jannah. He said all the names. Okay, these 10 famous Sahaba, the four of them are the four caliphs, the four Khalifas, and the others are Zubair bin Awam, Abdurrahman bin Auf, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, Sa'id bin Zayd, and Talha bin Ubaidillah. Now, inshallah, we do plan to do a course on the 10 guaranteed Jannah, Ashara Mubashara. Once we finish the Seerah course, inshallah, we will be speaking about each one in detail, inshallah. Maybe one lesson, 1 hour on each one. So 10 weeks we can do that, inshallah. So Khayr Academy do plan to talk about them, but these 10 were guaranteed Jannah. Inshallah, I'll speak about a few of them, inshallah, before we move on to our next slide. So when Abu Bakr went to his friends, and before they accepted Islam, there were some of them that saw some dreams. Okay, so Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, one of his friends, he saw a dream of darkness. He had a dream that everything was dark and there was a light. Okay, so he went to that light. In his dream, when he went to that light, everything was pitch dark. There was one source of light. He went to that light and he found Abu Bakr there, Zayd bin Haritha there, and Ali radiallahu anhu there. And when he woke up, he went to Abu Bakr and he explained everything. Abu Bakr took him to the Prophet and he accepted Islam. So the dream was that everything is darkness and the light is Islam. And Abu Bakr, Zayd bin Haritha, and Ali have already accepted Islam. Now it's your turn. It's your turn, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, to go accept Islam. What happened was, when his mother found out that he accepted Islam, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas' mother, when she found out that he accepted Islam, she said, I won't eat, Sa'ad, until you leave Islam and you come back to our religion. Okay? You come back to idol worshipping and that. I won't eat until you come back. And he thought, okay, she's probably angry, she's just saying that. But days went by and she was falling ill. And obviously he was getting sad. But he said to her, oh mother, you are the best of mothers. Okay, you are the best of mothers, but Islam is the best of religion. I can't forsake Islam. Even if 1,000 mothers come like you, I can't forsake Islam. One more story of one of these. Okay, we're not going to go into too much detail because inshallah we'll leave that for the course, inshallah. Talha bin Ubaidillah. When Talha bin Ubaidillah, he was trading in Busra, a rabbi while he was trading there, he was trading in Busra, there was a rabbi there who said, is anyone here from Mecca? And Talha put his hand up and said, yes, I'm from Mecca. And the rabbi asked that, oh Talha, has Ahmad come yet? Because he's meant to come now, Ahmad. And Talha was confused, who is Ahmad? But is in the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ is referred to Ahmad in the Quran. Min ba'd ismuhu Ahmad. Okay, min ba'd ismuhu Ahmad. That after Prophet Isa, a prophet will come and his name will be Ahmad. One of the Prophet's other names is Ahmad. Okay, he had many other names. One of them is Ahmad. So Talha bin Ubaidillah didn't understand. He came back. He asked Abu Bakr and explained to him that the Prophet Muhammad, the famous Muhammad that was in Mecca, he has become a prophet, and we've all become Muslim. Talha also accepted Islam, and like that, slowly, all of them accepted Islam. In the first 3 years where there was secret da'wah, there were a handful of Muslims, not too many, but there were quite a few Muslims. Okay, before we move on to our next slide, inshallah, I'll just check the chat option. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone has any questions? You can ask, inshallah. So far, the 2 slides we've done, or the 2 topics we've done, Wudhu and Salaah and early Muslim. If you have any questions, you can ask. If not, inshallah, we'll move on, inshallah. Give a few seconds. Fine, inshallah. I think we're okay to move on, inshallah. You have to remember that the points to remember from this slide is that the salah in the beginning was 2 salahs. one before sunrise and one at sunset time. There were 2 units, so 2 rak'ahs per salah, and the early Muslims, we spoke about them and where they were studying. We're going to be learning about that in the next slide, inshallah. Okay, so where they were studying in a place, a house called Daarul Arqam, which we'll learn inshallah in our next slide. What is Daarul Arqam? Daarul Arqam was the house of Arqam radiallahu an. His full name was Arqam bin Abil Arqam radiallahu an. Now, he had quite a few houses. He inherited quite a few houses from his father. And one of these houses, he gave it in the path of Allah for Islamic education. Okay, this was the first madrasa. This was the first Islamic school. This was the first like knowledge hub for Islam. In Islam, this was the first place where people were going and praying. People were going and seeking knowledge. Okay, now where was it located? It was located at the foot of Mount Safa. So we know Mount Safa and Marwa. We did that in our first module. Hajar radiallahu an, may Allah be pleased with her, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam. She ran back and forth from Safa and Marwa. Remember, she ran back and forth from Safa and Marwa. And for those who've been to Umrah or Hajj, you will know. Okay, so the house of Arqam, this house of Arqam was close to Safa. Okay, it was on the northern base, and next to it you will see the gate. There's a gate. If you look at the picture on the right hand side, there's a gate called the Arqam gate, Al Arqam gate of Masjid al Haram. Close to there, Darul Arqam was there. Okay, so the Muslims would gather there and they would perform salah. They would learn about Islam without fear or torture or persecution. Okay, you understand? So it was because there were less Muslims, so they can go in there, go in and out, and no one would ever become suspicious that what's going on. Okay, many verses were revealed there. Many verses were revealed there. The Prophet taught these verses. Those who missed the lessons, Khabbab radiallahu an, Khabbab, a man called Khabbab. If you missed a lesson in Darul Arqam, Khabbab would personally come to your house and he would teach what you've missed. You know, like we have private tutors, or when you miss a lesson, you can catch up. So Khabbab was like the catch up teacher. He would go around and teach. We're going to speak about Khabbab very soon, inshallah. Many embraced Islam here as well. Ammar bin Yasir, Suhaib, Hamza radiallahu an, Umar radiallahu anhu. You know the famous story of Umar radiallahu anhu. We're going to do that inshallah in this module anyway. When Umar radiallahu anhu, he set out to kill the Prophet ﷺ, and then his cousin came in between and told him, haven't you seen that your sister your sister and your brother-in-law have accepted Islam? And he came back, and when he took his Islam, he came back to Daarul Arqam. So he took his Islam in Daarul Arqam. He took his Shahada in Daarul Arqam. So this is Daarul Arqam. Remember this. Okay, this was the first place where Islamic knowledge was taught. Okay, this shows us that and it's like that every single institute, every single Islamic institute started small, and slowly it got bigger. Okay, you all start very small, and with sincerity you can get bigger. So Islam started from a very small house. Okay, inshallah we're going to move into our next slide, inshallah. After this slide, I'll take some questions. This slide is one of our most important slides of the day, inshallah. The command on open da'wah. So in the beginning, like I said, for the first 3 years, the Prophet ﷺ was giving da'wah privately. And then Allah instructed him to give da'wah openly, to go out now and to preach. Okay? So the first point for this slide is a portion of Surah Muzammil was revealed. We know the Surah, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila, nisfahu aw inqus minhu qalila. Ya ayyuhal muzammil. Allah is speaking to the Prophet ﷺ. Oh, the wrapped one. Because remember, when the first revelation came, he wrapped himself up. So Allah is calling him, oh, the one who wraps himself up. قُمِ اللَّيْلَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. That stand in the night except a little. Okay? So this shows that in the beginning, some scholars say tahajjud, the qiyamul layl, the tahajjud prayer in the early days of Islam, it was compulsory. And the Sahaba would get up and they would stand for a very long time, because Allah said, قُمِ اللَّيْل, stand in the night, إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Except for a little. So for a little time you can rest, but most of the time, majority of the night, stand up and pray. And what happened to the Sahaba was, because they did that for a full year, throughout the day when you see them, their face color would change. Okay, the feet would start to swell, They would work throughout the day, and all night they will be standing. Then Allah made it easy for them. Okay, Allah decreased their responsibility. Allah says, نِصْفَهُ أَوْ انْقُصْ مِنْهُ قَلِيلًا أَوْ زِدْ عَلَيْهِ وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. That you don't have to stand up for the majority part of the night, but a small portion of the night would do. Okay, so this was a habit of the Prophet that to stand up in tahajjud. Okay, Aisha radiallahu anhu says that he would toss and turn all night. Okay, because he had a concern that he wants to stand up, he wants to wake up and get up and pray tahajjud. Okay, we have alarm clocks. They never had alarm clocks back in the days, but they had the concern, they had the fikr that we need to get up, we need to get up and pray for the ummah. So he would do that. So some scholars say that tahajjud was compulsory on our Prophet ﷺ. It's not compulsory on us, but it's compulsory. It was compulsory on the Prophet ﷺ. And when he would get up, he wouldn't pray like me and you. He wouldn't pray 5 minutes tahajjud or 10 minutes. His wife would say he would stand up and pray for hours and hours, and he would repeat verses. He would repeat verses. He would cry. Okay, after tahajjud, he would make dua, and the dua after tahajjud, it most likely will get accepted. Imam Shafi'i says the dua after tahajjud is like an arrow that always hits its target. Now, when can you pray tahajjud? Tahajjud is the prayer you can pray after Isha, before Fajr. Okay, but it's better to pray in the third part of the night. Okay, so if you can divide the night up into 3 portions, it's better to wake up at the third portion of the night. It's when the full city, or the full country you're living in, they're going to be sleeping. Okay, so you get to connect with your Creator. Whilst everyone is sleeping, Allah comes down. Okay, and Allah will listen to your du'as, inshallah. And many people have said it, many scholars have said it. I myself have experienced that the dua you make at tahajjud, okay, it works wonders. Okay, moving on to the next point. Qasim, so the Prophet's son Qasim passed away. Okay, his first son Qasim passed away. Now moving on to the next point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, so Allah commanded the Prophet regarding open da'wah. He says in Surah Hijr that فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرْ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. It comes in Surah Hijr, verse number 94, that start to go and command, Allah commanded that go and preach Islam publicly now. Okay, then Allah says وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ وَاخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكَ لِمَنِ اتَّبَعَكَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Go and warn your close relatives. Always start from your family. If you want to start preaching, yes, and you're the imam of the masjid, or you're the local scholar, and you're preaching to the community, but at home no one is praying at home, you have to start from home. Allah says in the Quran, okay, that first save your family from the fire of hell, then you can go out and help others. So when these commands were given, the Prophet ﷺ, he went out to go and call the people, okay, because this was a command. Now, what they would do back in the days is when there was an emergency call, okay, long time ago, about before the Prophet ﷺ, people would get like a fire, they would get a stick with fire and they would wave it around, and that would mean that everyone who's around come, there's an important message. But in the Prophet's time, what they would do is they would go climb a mountain, and they would shout out the names of tribes, that oh Banu Hashim, oh Banu Taym, okay, oh Banu Nufal, or oh Banu Muttalib, okay, and so the Prophet went on to Mount Safa. So we know Mount Safa and Marwa. The Prophet went on to Mount Safa, and he called upon all these tribes. Everyone came. Okay, everyone came, and he started to speak to them. He said to them that if I was to tell you that an enemy will attack, okay, behind this mountain, there's an enemy that will attack us, okay, would you believe me? And everyone there, they said, yes, Muhammad, we will definitely believe you. The Muslims and the non-Muslims, they unanimously agreed that that Prophet ﷺ was a Sadiq al-Amin, the honest one and the trustworthy. He never spoke a word of lie. So the Prophet ﷺ said, okay, I am warning you of a terrible punishment if you do not believe in the oneness of Allah, and that Allah has sent me as a prophet. Okay, when he said that, Abu Lahab, his uncle, got angry, and he said, Tabban laka ya Muhammad, destruction upon you, O Muhammad. أَلِهَذَا جَمَعْتَنَا. Is this why you gathered us? Is this why you call us, Muhammad? Is this why you call us? That's why Allah revealed Surah Lahab. So Abu Lahab said to his nephew, Tabban laka ya Muhammad, destruction upon you, O Muhammad. Allah revealed the verse and said, no, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab, destruction upon you, O Abu Lahab. ما أغنى عنه ماله وما كسب, that his family, his wealth, and his children didn't benefit him. سيصلى نارا ذات لهب, he will soon go into the flaming fire. Now, it's the Quran's nature that the Quran doesn't fame anyone, it doesn't give fame to anyone, and it doesn't defame anyone. Okay, Abu Lahab is the only enemy of Allah to be explicitly mentioned by name in the Quran. And who was he? He was the uncle of the Prophet. That wasn't his name. Okay, he was given this name. He was one of the brothers of our Prophet's father. He was given this name, Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab literally means the father of flame. Okay, because of his skin color. He was red in complexion. Okay, he was known to be handsome and he was red in complexion, so they gave him this title, Abu Lahab. So he was given the news of Jahannam already on this earth. Allah already said it to him whilst he was alive, that you are destined for Jahannam. Even though we can't say that about the non-Muslim now, okay, even if someone is so against Islam and they have basically evil people nowadays that they have said so much bad things about Islam, we can't say this person is destined for Jahannam. We don't know if this person would take Shahada before they pass away. But with Abu Lahab, whilst he was alive, he was already destined for Jahannam. It was already revealed. Okay, that سيصلى نارا ذات لهب, and we're gonna learn about, inshallah, how Allah gave him and his wife Jamil a humiliating death. Okay, Allah gave them such an humiliating ending. Inshallah, we're gonna be learning about that in our next in the next few slides, inshallah. Also, some lessons that it teaches us is that it doesn't matter who your family is. It doesn't matter who your father is. Okay, we know so many stories. Okay, so the Prophet's uncle Abu Lahab. Okay, the Prophet's uncle Abu Talib. Okay, they will go to the hellfire. Okay, we know about Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father, he will go to the hellfire. We know about Nuh alayhi salam's son and his wife. They will go to the hellfire. We know about Lut alayhi salam's wife. Okay, it doesn't matter just because your father is a religious person that you are going to be a religious person. Okay, the Prophet said, وَمَنْ بَطَّأَ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ لَمْ يُسْرِعْ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ. Whoever's deeds keep them behind, their lineage will not move them forward. Doesn't matter who you are related to, Allah will not look at your relatives or not your father. He will look at you, yourself, your heart, and your deeds. Now, Allah is so merciful. Before we move on to the last slide of the day, Allah is so merciful that Abu Lahab, even though he is destined for Jahannam, every Monday Abu Lahab is given some water. So his brother, Abu Lahab's brother Abbas, he had a dream and he saw his brother Abu Lahab in the dream. And he asked Abu Lahab, "Oh brother, how is it? How has Allah treated you?" And Abu Lahab said, "I do not get any rest except that every Monday I'm given some water. I am given a bit of water." Does anyone know why Allah gives him a bit of water every Mondays? Okay.
He feed a slave on Monday.
MashaAllah, very good. So, and why did he free his slave? Anyone know?
Prophet Muhammad was born on that day.
Very good, mashallah. Because the Prophet was born on a Monday, Abu Lahab, out of happiness, he didn't know his nephew is going to grow up to become a prophet, but Abu Lahab, out of happiness, he freed his slave, 𝗃𝗏. And because of that, Allah loved this action so much that Abu Lahab, on every Mondays, he's given a bit of water, just enough amount you can put on your palm. Okay. Any questions or anything? So I think someone asked in the chat option. For some reason I can't check the chat option. Okay, inshallah. We're just going to do one more slide, inshallah, and then I will take as many questions as you have, inshallah. Just one more slide. So our last slide for the day, inshallah. Okay. Now, the Mushrikeen, they made many attempts. They made many attempts to stop Islam. Okay, they made many attempts to stop Islam. So what happened after this incident of Safa and Marwa, when the Prophet went on to Safa and he called everyone, and Abu Lahab got angry and he said, "Is this why you called us?" And he picked up some stones to throw at the Prophet, and Jibril alayhi salam came down with the revelation. Okay, the Prophet, he invited his family, because remember, he was given this command that 𝗃𝗵𝗁𝗃 that warn your family, start with your family first. So what he did was, because Ali radiallahu anhu was living with him, he told Ali radiallahu anhu, "Oh Ali, prepare some food, inshallah. Okay, I'm gonna call my uncles and everyone for a meal, inshallah." So they all came over and they all ate, and then he started to preach to them. Okay, he said to them, "I have brought this, which is enough for both religion and the world. Who will help me carry out this responsibility?" Okay, no one put the hand up besides Ali. Ali was a very small boy at that time. Ali said, "I will support you." And the uncles started laughing. Okay, all the uncles, others started laughing. Abu Talib said, "Oh son, I am old now. Okay, I cannot follow you and abandon my religion, but I will try my best to protect you. Okay, I won't let go of you." So even though Abu Talib never accepted Islam, whilst he looked after the Prophet for the 42 years, he protected him to the best of his ability. But what did Abu Lahab say? Abu Lahab said, "I am against you and I will war against you." Okay, I will war against you. I will try my best to take Islam out. And that's what he did, Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab tried so much to destroy Islam. So in the beginning, when Islam was obviously new, the Prophet would go from people to people, okay, from person to person. He would go and he would preach Islam, and Abu Lahab, his uncle, would follow him. Yeah, he would throw stones behind him, and every single person the Prophet went to and explained about Islam, Abu Lahab would go to the person after the Prophet had gone by and said, "The person who spoke to you, that was my nephew. He's a madman, so don't listen to what he says. Okay, it doesn't make no sense. That's my nephew." Okay, and he would try his best to destroy Islam. And the Mushrikeen, okay, all the leaders of the Quraysh, they came to Abu Talib and they complained about the Prophet. They said, "Oh Abu Talib, if you don't stop him from spreading Islam, then we will have to sort something out. Okay, you will come in between, and we'll have to basically do something about it." So the Prophet, Abu Talib, saw the Prophet and he explained to him that, "Oh my son, you understand? Look what they're saying now. They've confronted me and stuff like that." And the Prophet said, "Look, uncle, okay, even if they give me the sun on my right hand and the moon on my left hand, yes, I will not stop. I will not stop the preaching. Okay, I will not stop propagating and preaching this religion. Only time I will stop is when I come to an end, or Allah elevates this religion and it spreads throughout the entire world. I won't stop until then." Then Abu Lahab, he understood. Then Abu Talib understood, and Abu Talib said, "Okay, my son, okay, I will look after you to the best of my ability. Okay, I will make sure I won't hand you over to them. To the best of my ability, I will try to protect you to the best of my ability." Now, because Islam was spreading very fast, okay, the number of Muslims were growing, and the Hajj season was coming. The Hajj season is the time where people from all across the world, they will come, and the Mushrikeen, the non-believers, they were getting more scared. They were thinking, "Now, if people come from other countries and they accept Islam in Mecca and they take this Islam back to their home countries, Islam would spread too fast." So they came up with the idea. They wanted to stop this, and they said, "We need to give Muhammad a title. We need to give Muhammad the title, but he has to be the same title. I can't say he's this, and you can't say he's this. We all have to agree on one title. And anyone who comes, yes, we have to tell them that beware of Muhammad because he's this." So they got into a little meeting, and they had a meeting, and the leader of the meeting was Walid bin Mughira. Okay, Walid bin Mughira, we spoke about Walid bin Mughira. He was the first one to take a brick of the Kaaba when they were rebuilding the Kaaba. Okay, Walid bin Mughira, he got his leaders around, and they all said some titles. They made many false titles. So the first title, they said that, "Let's say he's a fortune teller." Walid bin Mughira said, "No, that won't That won't be a good idea, okay? Because he hasn't got any qualities of a fortune teller. He doesn't talk like them. So let's think of another title. Then they said he's a crazy man, and then Wali said no, that won't count as well. Okay, let's think of a bad idea because he doesn't speak like one. He doesn't talk. He doesn't walk like one. Okay, he doesn't conduct himself like one. Let's think of something else. Then they said okay, let's say he's a poet. And then Wali said, no, he can't be a poet as well. Why? Because I know poetry. Wali said, I know poetry. And his speech is not poetry, it's divinely. Okay, it's definitely from God. It's definitely from God. It's not something it's not man-made. And then they finalized and they came up to a conclusion and they said, okay, we'll say he's a magician, but not physical magic. He does magic via words, and his magic is so strong, yes, that he can separate a husband and wife. Even if you listen to it accidentally, then you will fall under his spell. And that's what they said. So anyone that was coming into Makkah for Hajj, or anyone that's coming from anywhere else, they would tell them that beware of Muhammad. Okay, beware of Muhammad. He does magic by words. If you come next to him and you listen to his words, then he will cast a spell onto your life and he will destroy your life. And Allah speaks about that in Surah Mudaththir from verse 11 to 26. Allah talks about Walid bin Mughira. So now a quick story about a man called 𝗃𝗿𝗍𝗀𝗪. A very famous man named 𝗃𝗿𝗍𝗀𝗪, yes, he was coming from Yemen, and he was a very knowledgeable man, very educated. So the Quraysh told Tufail, oh Tufail, when you go into Makkah, just block your ears. There's some scholars that say that they made him, they told Tufail to put cotton in his ear or block his ear as he walks into Makkah. And they said, don't listen to Muhammad, okay, he's a magician. So Tufail, he thought, okay, that's fine. Tufail went on, he did his tawaf of the idols or whatever he was doing, and he accidentally heard some words of the Prophet ﷺ. And because he was knowledgeable and he knew the Arabic language so well, he knew that these words were divinely. So he went and spoke to the Prophet ﷺ, and after speaking to the Prophet ﷺ, he accepted Islam. Now the Prophet ﷺ told Tufail, oh Tufail, go back to your place, go back to those and preach, okay? Go back and preach to those. Tufail went for a short period of time, okay? Only a handful of people accepted Islam, like his wife and some of his household. And he came back to the Prophet and he said, oh Prophet of Allah, no one in those is accepting Islam, okay? Make dua to Allah to finish the people of those. And the Prophet said to Tufail, oh Tufail, okay, be patient with your people. You only went for a short period of time. Be patient with them, yes, and speak to them in a kind manner. Speak to them with a soft tone, and inshallah they will accept Islam. And that's what Tufail did. He went for a couple of years, and they say that when you return back, there were more than 70 to 80 families. And from his patience, the fruit of his patience was, there was a famous Sahabi who came from there. His name was none other than Abu Hurairah radiallahu an. Okay, the famous Sahabi who narrated the most ahadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. He came from the patience and the propagation and the preaching of 𝗃𝗿𝗍𝗀𝗪. Okay, this teaches us a lesson that sometimes, okay, if we're preaching or sometimes we're talking about religion, we shouldn't lose our temper. We shouldn't get angry. Okay, we shouldn't disrespect the person. So what if he's a Christian, or so what if he's a Jew? It doesn't mean you can talk over him. It doesn't mean that you can swear at him. No. Okay, most people, okay, there's a lot of people who accept Islam by seeing the Muslim's character. Okay, أكمل المؤمنين إيمانا أحسنهم خلقا. The most perfect believer is the one with the best manners. And Umar radiallahu anhu said that the silent da'wah is good manners. Okay, husnul khuluq is good manners, is silent da'wah. That you might be just conducting yourself as a Muslim, and people will see you and they will want to become Muslim. Like we know the story of the Prophet ﷺ, that his neighbor would always throw rubbish in front of his house. He would never say nothing to her. Okay, one day came, there was no rubbish in front of his house. Second day, third day, no rubbish in front of his house. So he went and he found out that she was ill. Okay, he went to visit her and she was shocked. She was shocked to see him. She said that, Muhammad, you're the last person I expected. Okay, and she was shocked. He didn't have to say anything. He didn't tell her to become a Muslim, but because of his character, she accepted Islam. Okay, so we should always remember, okay, that we represent Islam. Okay, we represent Islam. People will judge Islam by the Muslims. People, if we make mistakes, yes, the people and the media will say that Islam is this, Islam is that. Okay, so remember, every time we walk our house, we're an agent of Islam. Okay, we're representing Islam. Okay, especially if you're wearing Islamic clothing, then we have to be very, very careful. Okay, but even then, even if we're not, we should try our best to represent Islam to the best of our ability. Okay, always be patient. Okay, be patient. Don't lose the respect for the other speaker. So if you're speaking to someone who's Jewish or a Christian, okay, don't lose respect for them. Respect them. You don't have to accept what they say, but you should be able to respect them. Okay, have a nice conversation with them, and if they do accept, inshallah, then Allah will help, inshallah, for them to accept the message. The last point, inshallah, before we finish is the early Muslims, they faced a lot of torture. The early Muslims made so much sacrifice. That's why this religion is so easy and beautiful for us. And what do? We've got Islam so easily. Okay, one of my teachers would say that we got Islam by chance, not by choice. We got Islam by chance, not by choice. We got Islam because luckily our mother, our father, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they were Muslims. Luckily, because of that, we became Muslim. We didn't become Islam, we didn't take Islam by choice. Okay, those people that were born a Christian, then they took Islam. They're doing it by choice. Look what they go through. Yes, look what they go through. That some, like I came across this brother, only 16 years old. His family abandoned him. Okay, family abandoned him in Ramadan. Okay, they weren't cooking halal food for him, so he would go out just to work to look for halal food. Imagine for people like that. And even then, that's nothing compared to the torture the early Muslims faced. We'll see some stories about some of the early Muslims, what they faced. Okay, we'll start off with Khabbab. We spoke about Khabbab bin Arat. Khabbab bin Arat was the one, when anyone missed a lesson in Daarul Arqam, he would go and he would teach the people who missed the lesson. Khabbab bin Arat, his master, when he found out that Khabbab became a Muslim, his master would put him on hot coal. Yes, and he would press his stomach down, and he wouldn't get no rest until this coal became cold. Okay, he would make him wear armor as well. In Makkah especially, it's very, very hot, and he would leave him on the sand, and he would burn there. Okay, that was the suffering some of them went through. We know about Bilal radiallahu anh, the famous Bilal, the Muadhin. He was owned by Umayyah. Okay, Umayyah would torture him to another level. Okay, Umayyah would place a big rock on his stomach, and he would make people drag him on the hot sand, on the rocky path. He would burn his back. He would rip his back up. But he would always say, "Ahad, Ahad, Allah is one, Allah is one." That's why when he later on became a Muslim and he was given the job of giving adhan, Prophet said to him that, "Oh Bilal, before your voice would echo on the ground, Ahad, Ahad. Now you're the Muadhin, your voice will echo through the heavens." Okay, there's many stories like that. We know the story about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. When Abu Bakr became Muslim and he started preaching openly, they came and beat him up so much, yes, that you couldn't recognize Abu Bakr anymore. He became unconscious. When he gained his consciousness, when his family came and picked him up and took him home, when he gained his consciousness, he didn't ask for food. He didn't ask for water. What did he ask? He said, "How is the Prophet ﷺ?" Okay, he goes, "I won't eat or drink or do anything until I go and see how the Prophet ﷺ is, if he's okay." That's how much love they had for religion. That's how much love they had for the Prophet ﷺ. We don't have to go through nothing like that. We can walk out with our sisters, our mothers can walk out with a headscarf, nothing happens. We can walk out with the hat, with the jubba, nothing happens. Maximum you'll receive is maybe a racist comment here and there, once in a blue moon, probably. Okay, but look what they went through. They were scared to hold on to the religion. Okay, they would get beaten up so bad. Okay, it reminds me of the story of Ammar bin Yasir and his mother, his mother Sumayya. What happened to Sumayya? Feel bad to say the story as well, because we're just saying the story, but we don't feel the pain what they went through. What they done to Sumayya was they got Sumayya and they attached a on both her legs they attached 2 camels. One camel on her right leg, one camel on her left leg was tied with a rope, and both camels or both horses, whatever they used, was instructed and commanded to run in opposite directions, and that ripped Sumayya up. Okay, he ripped Sumayya up into 2 pieces. Look what they went through. Okay, Bilal, Sumayya, even the Prophet ﷺ, okay, they would mock the Prophet ﷺ so much. Okay, there was a time when Uqba he got a cloth and he choked the Prophet ﷺ. He choked the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr had to come and stop it. There was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was praying Salah, and they got camel intestines and they put it on the Prophet ﷺ. He couldn't even lift himself up from sajda until his daughter had to come and take it off. Okay, then his son also passed away. Abdullah also passed away, and they started calling the Prophet ﷺ Abtar. Abtar in Arabic means a person whose male lineage is cut off. Inshallah, we'll finish in a few minutes. They started calling the Prophet ﷺ Abtar, a person whose male lineage is cut off. But he doesn't have no male offspring. Okay, we don't have to care about him now. Okay, he won't leave a legacy. He won't leave anything. He won't leave anything behind. He doesn't have no sons to take this Islam any forward. They would laugh at him and they would say Abtar. That's why we read in Surah Surah Kawthar, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Allah says that, oh Muhammad, we have given you abundant in good. Okay, don't worry about what they say. Okay, and there are many stories about how the Muslims were tortured. Okay, how the Muslims were tortured before at the beginning, at the very beginning of Islam, the Muslims were tortured to a very high level. Okay, so they made so much sacrifice for us. Okay, they made so much sacrifice for this religion. We should try our best as well. In any shape or form, we should make a sacrifice, whether we could teach someone, whether we could help financially, however you could make sacrifice, try to help and propagate this religion as much as to the best of your ability. And inshallah, the next few generations, our children and our grandchildren, and the next few generations, inshallah, they will find it easy as well. We'll leave it till there, inshallah. We did have another slide, but we cannot complete that today, inshallah. We will leave that for our next lesson, inshallah. We'll leave it till there. If you have any questions, inshallah. If you have any questions, you can ask any questions before we end. If anyone has any questions, the chat option is open. You can ask. If not, inshallah, that's fine. Okay, inshallah, may Allah make this lesson, inshallah, means for our success. Inshallah, everyone understood everything. Whatever you understood, inshallah, may Allah make it easy for us to act upon everything that was said. Inshallah, first of all, give me the ability to act upon everything that was said. Whatever that was taught today, inshallah, try to go over it. And inshallah, next lesson, we'll carry on from there. We'll start off with lessons again. We'll start off with questions again before we move on. I'll leave you there, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.